sit in and get with you, baby, tonight. I don't wanna love, I don't wanna fight. I don't wanna have to tell you all the things I know. I don't wanna stay, but I don't wanna go. I don't wanna be the lover in your arms. I don't wanna be the one to keep you from home. I don't wanna be the crooked person in your heart. I don't wanna start, and I don't wanna start. Part-time love, how we suffer now. And I don't wanna waste no more of your precious time. I don't wanna say that everything will be fine. I don't wanna feel your tears on my skin. I'm a coward, baby, don't let me in. Part-time lover, how we suffer now. So I don't wanna sit in and get with you, baby, tonight. I don't wanna love, I don't wanna fight. I don't wanna have to tell you all the things I know. I don't wanna stay, but I don't wanna go. I am a poor wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of war. There is no sickness, toil nor danger in that bright land to which I go. I'm going there to see my mother. I'm going there, no more to roam. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going to see my father. I'm going there, no more to roam. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just to see my brother. He said he'd meet me when I come. Hush, little darling, don't say a word. I'm gonna buy you a mockingbird. Say, darling, say. And if that mockingbird don't sing, I'm gonna buy you a diamond ring. Yes, and I know that diamond ring. Yes, I know that diamond ring is gonna shine. Darling, if you'll marry me, I'll buy you a house with a big oak tree. Say, darling, say, we'll live in the house with the big oak tree. 3 little babies on your knee. Yes, and I know that diamond ring. Yes, I know that diamond ring is gonna shine. So hush, little darling, don't say a word. I'm gonna buy you a mockingbird.
Thank you. Hello, this is Tommy Schneider. We're doing our creative stream of working on the Autumn project. This is the 14th episode. We've been working on this, and we're almost done with this park. There are 3 parks we have to work with. This is number 3. This is a series that uses digital photography, digital film. We use medium format color film. What's exciting about this is that what's exciting about this is film I actually developed myself. So usually I shoot the film and then I send it off to be developed. But I found this company called CineStill Film, and they create these chemicals that you can get to develop, yourself. And back in the day, it was more complicated. I used to develop my black and white photography myself, but you needed 3 chemicals, and they were pretty harsh. I'm looking for something. Anyway, they were pretty harsh chemicals, and so 2 of them you can dump, down the drain once you've used it, but one of them is like really, really hazardous. And so they have, so the standard was developer 76, and so you would have the one bath you would do, the developing bath, and that takes away the part of the film that wasn't reactive to light, and so that creates the image. And then you have the other chemical, which the fixer, which you would have to do separate, and that makes the film that you just developed, it makes it permanent. Because if you didn't make it permanent, then when you brought it out to the light, you would lose the image. And so that neutralizes the film. And then you have your cleaning bath. And so it's 3 different chemicals you had to use. And they came up with a developer solution called Developer D96. And so those 3 chemicals that you would normally have to use, it would you would only have to use 1. And so you have the canister, you dump the chemical into the canister, and you develop it for like 4 minutes. And the way you develop is you have to agitate it a little bit. So you dump it in, and then you shake it around, and then you let it sit for like 30 seconds, and then you shake it again for like 5 seconds, and that makes it so that you get a nice even image developed, instead of like having the bottom image developed really well but the top row isn't developed well. And so there's that. And so it's nice because it's just 1 chemical, and then you reuse it. And you can with the black and white developer, you can reuse it over 16 times. The way you kind of know that it's getting old, it's called getting exhausted, is the image doesn't come out as clear. So you have to kind of monitor. How each image is coming up. Oh my goodness, I almost died. Choking to death. But what's nice is I was like, it worked out so well. This mono bath, meaning it's just, one chemical you have to use, that I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and use the coloring one, because when you're developing color film, it used to be really complicated where you couldn't really do it without using a machine, because there was like 5 or 6 chemicals you had to use. And so let's pretend film is RGB, and so you'd have to do the red layer, the green layer, and then the blue layer. I mean, film isn't red, green, blue, but you'd have to do it for each color, essentially each color channel. And so because of that, if you accidentally do it too long with the green cycle, then your image would actually lose less green, because you're burning it away essentially. And so you have to do it evenly. And so they came out with a 2-bath solution, and it's kind of like the original way you develop black and white, but you develop it which is step 1, and then you add the fix, or the Blix is what it's called, and that will make the image permanent. And so instead of having to do 3 or 4 or 5 chemicals, it's just one, and then you make it permanent. And it came out really well. And so it's not that pricey. It was like $40 for the with shipping. It was $40 for the chemicals for developing color, but the black and white is cheaper. It's like $30. Shipping's a little high, but I think it was $30 with shipping. And so now I'd say, oh, that's expensive. That's like $70 or $170, depending on how much you get. And that is true. I say $170 because you can get the black and white developer as a kit, where it comes with everything you need to load the film into the canister and everything. And so I did that, and it was $100. But but it actually saves you bucks, because the people I used to develop with, you mail it in, and they were inexpensive. They were the best, but it was $11 per roll, and that was for medium format. That was for 35 millimeter. It was all the same price to develop it, so it was nice. And it's the same price if it was color or black and white. Some labs will actually charge more for black and white, because you need different equipment. It's actually easier to develop black and white by hand than by the machine, just because it doesn't take that much work. And so if I wanted to develop all the film I had stockpiled, it was going to cost like $390 to send it out. And I was like, ugh. And so I was starting to send it out in, small increments. Then I was like, I'm just going to develop myself, try it. And it worked. I did a road trip. And I took pictures. I wasn't driving, but I was taking medium format photos through the window and everything across the United States. And so I had, several rolls of medium format. So I was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna try to develop those myself, and it worked out really well. Worked out really well. And so then I've just been developing myself ever since. Everyone, kind of complains that, oh, film's so expensive. And it kind of is, and it kind of isn't. Shooting on film is... yeah, you have to pay for each photograph you take. But a lot of times, especially if you're shooting with medium format, if you wanted to get a medium format camera, kind of the most inexpensive ones are like $5,000, or they're usually around 10 or 20,000 for a used one, and then some of them are up to like 50,000 and everything. And so if you shoot on medium format film, yes, you pay for every photo you take. It's kind of like an installation fees, kind of, where all those years you shoot on film are years that you would normally just be saving, and you wouldn't have any photographs because you're saving to get the medium format camera. Or some people are like, oh, just take out a loan. But I'm like super paranoid about going into debt. I avoid it at all cost. I am getting ready to get a credit card, but that even gives me anxiety. To build my credit score. But yeah, right now I have no debt. And unfortunately, that also means I have no credit history. And it's funny because I worked in this department store, and we were encouraged to sell the credit cards to the point where if a cashier sold someone on a credit card, then a store credit card, then we'd have bells going off on the wireless system, our walkie-talkies and stuff, and everyone's like celebrating, yay. And so during the holidays, corporate, they have numbers you want to reach. And so if they don't, they get angry at you. They're like, oh, the store in the next city is, selling this much. You guys should be selling more than that. And so there's a constant competition, and not just with the workers and everything, but mainly it's because you're being compared to every other store. And so obviously you want your store to beat out everyone. And so the goals they send out, they're like, you have to sell this many, store credit cards. And during the holidays. And so sometimes they come to the employees and they'd be like, oh, you wanna get a credit card? And so a lot of times it just counts that they do the credit check. And so I was like, oh, I'll help you guys. And so I applied, and they were like, yoink. Because they were like, you have no credit history. I was like, that's sad. my own employer won't authorize me for a credit card. But it was funny. It was actually quite bad luck that I worked there when I did. I worked seasonally. And so I started out in freight, and then I did in-store fulfillment, which is just loading the shelves and making sure everything's clean. But then I went on to buy online, pick up in store, and shipments. And so that's, when somebody would buy something online, we would ship it to them. So there was no back room, really. What it actually was is we would have to go around running throughout the store and find, essentially doing the shopping for the person and then mail it out to them. And then number two, the other option was that we'd have to go around, picking out items on the show floor, and then people would come and actually pick it up. So while I was working there, because it was a new system, we went from whatever ranking we were to being the highest in the district. And that was like, yeah. And so the part that was unlucky was that, it was the first year, I think, that they did, it's either the first or second year that they did the buy online, pick up in store. And they were like, oh, holiday's over. So they actually were, letting everyone go that did the online, that did the online orders, processing and everything. And so that was like, oh man. And then I was talking to some of the workers a couple of years later, and they're like, oh yeah, they thought that the online order thing would go down after the holidays, but it actually went up. And I was like, oh. I was like, that's sad. Could have stayed there longer. But yeah, corporate thought that they wouldn't need any more people to buy online. And it's funny, because like a lot of times I'll shop online because you get the deals. It's easier to find the prices online than it is in the store, because you could just miss an item. And then it's also easier because I buy online from Home Depot, and when I do, I can see how much each piece of wood costs, and then it affects how I design things, because sometimes it's cheaper to get 14-foot piece of wood and chop it into 7 or 8 pieces yourself than it is to buy, like, if you need 3 pieces of 4 feet wood. It can be cheaper than buying it pre-cut, and vice versa. And so that's why I shop online, especially in hardware stores. And it affects, when I'm building something, how I design it. But I go to Whole Foods, and Whole Foods was bought by Amazon. And so a big thing that Whole Foods does now is, one, they deliver. I believe it's same-day delivery at Whole Foods. And it's funny because I was there the other day, a couple of weeks ago, and they were like, all the Amazon trucks had, come, and they were lining up to pick up the food. And I was like, I do not miss working freight and everything, but it's kind of a little bit of annoyance, Like when I worked on the buy online system, we were told, you kind of have to stay out of the customers that are in the store, out of their way. And the Amazon ones, like the people that do the shopping, they will run you over. They will cut you off as you're shopping, and it's just like, you guys, I'm right here. And there was this, I had to go to the restroom after I was finished shopping. And so I go in line. Well, no, I don't go in line. I go to the back, and that's where all the Amazon shipping is, right in front of the restroom. And so I go, and then I come out. And so I'm still shopping, so I went to go back to my cart that was, on the other side. And the people that do the shopping, the buy online, they would not let me back out. They'd come flying in, and then there's this small hallway that you have to go through, and so they wouldn't be looking. They just start walking through, and I was like, I'm waiting. Okay, I have to change some settings. And I'm gonna take a short break. A short break.
Just like the water falling from the sky, and night, just like a new start, breathing new highs. I walk the night looking up, hoping to find the peace that I'm missing. I walk the day looking down and just like the water falling from the sky. Just like a new start, breathing new highs. I walk the night looking up, hoping to find the peace that I'm missing. I walk the day looking down and
Okay, I'm back. And oh man, I got so many stories about working retail. So one, working freight, our one manager was like really an angry person, like all the time. And it was funny because everyone dreaded her. And so when we unloaded, it was actually different from how other stores unload. Where the store I used to work at, they had a really small dock, like really small, to the point where if we unloaded the semi, well, we couldn't unload the semi completely all at once because there wasn't enough space in the dock. And so what we actually did was that as we're unloading, we're sorting and we're putting it out onto the show floor, and then around 9 the people that work in each department would actually put it onto the shelves and everything. So we would get there at like 5:30 and 5:30 in the morning and be unloading the truck. And so they're like, oh, we have to get this truck done in 45 minutes. And they're constantly, you know, trying to get the new high score, essentially. But it wasn't just, you know, if it was unload the truck all at once, it could be done. But it was unload the truck and sort as it's coming out. And I mean, it was hard because there was like 5 of us sorting, and then for whatever reason they could only fit one person into the truck with the conveyor belt to unload. And so if you're unloading a semi, you have to put the boxes on the conveyor belt. It rolls out, and then, you know, you don't realize how big a semi is until you have to unload one. And it and then for whatever reason, this is the stupid thing, is that the person who's unloading the truck actually in the truck putting everything on the conveyor belt. And it's hard too, because, you know, you don't have a ladder in there, and you know, sometimes there are boxes that are way on top of you, and so you kind of have to tip things over and catch them as they fall, so that they don't break. And so in addition to that, you have to, you know, untie all the boxes and everything on the conveyor belt. So I don't know why they had the person that's, you know, stuck who's stuck in the truck having to do that, but they did. And yeah, the process for working was incredible. Because first I was like, oh, they don't really like me, because they would only schedule me once a week for freight. And I figured out very quickly why. So working freight, you know, is extremely tiresome. Extremely. So I would work, you know, the one day, and then pretty much the whole week I was sore. And like, I'm a guy who, you know, my other job was gardening and everything. So I do a lot of strenuous activity to begin with. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then they started scheduling me every time the truck came. And so it built up, I built up a resistance. Not resistance, but a tolerance. And then they had me working inside the truck. And oh my goodness, that almost killed me. Like, I didn't think I would make it to the end of my shift. I didn't think I'd be able to unload the whole truck. And that was intense. But then I went to, after my season finished, I went to go work at a hardware store. No, apply at a hardware store. I didn't get it. And that's actually another funny story. Because I was interviewing for freight, and I told them, how long it took us. And they're like, oh, that's slow. And I was like, no. And so I was like, well, how do you guys do freight? And they were like, oh, we take everything out of the truck, and then we sort it and put it out. I was like, no, we don't do it that way. We sort as it's coming out of the truck. And they're like, oh. And I was like, yeah, it sucks. And the main reason why it sucks is because you could have, 3 or 4 people, taking things out of the truck at once. And the way we did it, there's only one person who unloads the truck and everyone else sorts. And we had people who, they start seasonal and then they don't even quit. They just don't show up, which is their form of quitting. And it's like, you could at least say, you quit. And so there were several days at the beginning where we would just lose people because freight was, was really labor intensive. So I was really glad when I went to buy online, that department. But at this department store I was interviewing at, they really liked me, but they would never hire me. And what I mean is for a year I would apply, and then they have the screening that they do online. And it's just basic stuff. They want to see if you do math, if what your personality type is, how you would do things in certain situations. So I would always pass that, and then I'd get an interview, and the interview would usually go well. And I say that because most of the time I would get called back to do a second interview. So I do the second interview, and time would go by, and they're like, you know what, sorry, we went with somebody else. And I was like, And so they would keep, emailing me, oh, apply for this position, apply for that position. And I would. And so I believe in like 6 months, I had gone in for 11 interviews. And I was just like, you know what? I just gotta stop. And they still interview me. They still email me and say, oh, we think this would be a good fit for you. And I'm like, yeah, do you? Do you really? And part of the problem where I live is like, there's just not a lot of jobs. And there was the 2009 recession, but Michigan's been going through the recession kind of before everyone else. I know that sounds like a hipster thing, but we were broke before it was cool to be broke. And it actually led to a lot of problems because nobody stays really in Michigan. You know, we have a problem with, they call it a brain drain, where everyone who gets, you know, highly educated just straight up leaves. And so a lot of the jobs that would be, you know, tech jobs and everything don't even come to Michigan. So we have finished the animation. Now we're doing the color grade. So we're going to color grade and then we'll be done. We're not going to start the next one. The next part today. And so this curve is what I'm doing is I'm editing kind of the contrast. And so you can edit the contrast at different points. So you can say everything that's dark, I want a really high. You know, I want the dark areas to be really rich and contrasty. And then you can say, okay, I want the bright areas to be even more contrast. So if you look, I can say, you know what, I don't want the darks to ever go to black. And so instead of being black, they go to this kind of milky haze. But they never go to the black. Versus this, you can say, I want the black point right there. And everything in shadow is just completely black. There's no definition. And so sometimes I say, you know what, don't go to completely black, but make everything that's dark, make it, you know, a little bit darker. And then everything that's bright, kind of bringing it down here. I'm saying don't make it overly bright. So it's a way to edit the tone, kind of the contrast of different aspects of the image. And then up here, we have the overall brightness. Well, the lift makes everything in dark. It adds brightness to it. And then the gamma is kind of the overall brightness. It's not really brightness, it's kind of like the exposure of the image. And then the gain is a flat brightness and contrast. Okay, that's it. This is the Steadicam footage. You can see. And this area is you know what? I have to change some of the settings. So now we're going to apply that color grade to all of the Steadicam footage. That's kind of the master color grade. And the reason why I'm not color grading the photos, which is everything in purple, is because I already edited the colors, edited them in Lightroom, so they're done. There are situations in which I edit the photograph colors in Blender versus Lightroom, and that's for stereoscopic. photographs. And the reason why the stereoscopic photographs need to be edited in Blender is because Blender, I have it rendered the left camera and then the right camera, and so it has to make the settings exactly the same. And Lightroom, yes, you could do it, you could copy and paste the left image with the right image, but I don't even have Lightroom process both images. I just go through and when I'm selecting the photo to use in the project, I'm only looking at the left eye. And then when I assemble the render environment, it essentially does two. It has two environments: the left footage and the right footage. Because that's how 3D works. It's two cameras separated apart, a similar distance to what our eyes are, and then it that offset, that slight difference between left and right, is what gives the 3D effect. And so 3D just allows our eyeballs to, essentially triangulate where everything is after the fact. And I have good news and bad news. The good news is that we will be starting Halo 3 tomorrow on normal, back at the beginning. So that's the good news. The bad news, it's not so much bad, but I am going to be taking a week off streaming. So I'll be doing the reruns of the visual audiobooks and Classical Graph and Winter at the Falls. But I will not be actually live. I'll still be on social media. But I'm getting a little tired. I don't know if I'm catching a cold. But it's also going to be my birthday next week. And so I'm taking time off for that. And there's kind of other projects I want to work on that I've been postponing. And so they need my attention. I've been working on this one project, but I've only been working on the weekend on it, and it's going pretty well, but I need some extra time with it. And then the other thing is I'm planning on doing some job hunting. And my plan is to work in IT somewhere. Kind of like, I liked working retail, but at this point I'm overqualified. And they don't like to hire overqualified people, because what they want is they want someone who's going to stay for like 5-10 years. They don't want somebody who's working retail and who's overqualified, and then they're just like, you know what? One day they just decide, I'm going to go work at a better job. And then they have to hire somebody else, and they actually don't like that process. And the other reason why there's issues with being overqualified is you're kind of taking the job away from somebody that is qualified for that job but isn't qualified for a a more difficult job. You're kind of taking their spot. So that's kind of the downside of being overqualified. But yeah, I'm planning on using my degree. I might even apply for programming, but kind of want to work IT as a nice, safe job. And then I'll still be streaming, but it will be it'll be part-time. Because right now it's full-time. And I know you'll look at my VODs and like, you only stream 2 hours a day. But that is true. But a lot of the, like going out, getting the footage, processing it, because a lot of it has to be kind of pre-edited, and then I write the software and everything. So all of that, everything I do offline, takes a considerable amount of time. Like I usually spend 7 or 8 hours doing photography stuff every day, and then in the summer I usually spend maybe between 4 and 6 hours at my part-time job every day when weather is okay. If it's raining, I don't go to work because there's nothing you can do. But yeah. It's just, I was kind of supposed to, my plan was like, I'm going to get a full-time job and everything in 2020, and then the coronavirus happened, and I was like, I'll focus on photography. But now I kind of want a stable income. Like that's the dream. Work an hour, get paid for an hour. Because a lot of the web services I use they kind of mess with me a little bit, where it's like, like this advertising that I get paid from, they're like, we'll pay you and everything, and then they're like, but you have to hit this threshold to get paid. And I'm like, what? And so I make money, but not enough to actually get the payout. It's like, so that sucks. And so every time I get close to reaching a goal, usually whatever account I'm at, if it's like Google, if it's YouTube, which is still Google, but if I get close, then something happens where they're like, you know what, yoink, we no longer offer that to you. So an example of that is I used to make between 5 cents to $2 every month with my one YouTube channel, an advertisement. And I was like, yeah. And so then there was, people kind of abuse the system at YouTube. So then they're like, you know what, we are taking away the ability for people to to run ads. And so they're like, the only way you can run ads is if you have like 10,000 views. And I was like, because I didn't have 10,000 views. So then finally I get close to 10,000 views and I'm like, oh man, here it comes. And I'll be able to run ads again. And they were like, you know what? People are still abusing the system. So now you have to get 10,000 views and have 1,000 subscribers. And I only have like 17 subscribers. And so I was like, okay, that's never gonna happen. So I got pwned there. And Twitch pwned me a little bit. I mean, it wasn't bad, but I wasn't affiliate forever. And, but 90% of the people that follow because of my photography reruns and everything. And so then I was like, okay, I'll focus on Twitch. And then they just yoinked. If you weren't affiliate, they took the ability for you to do uploads and reruns away. And I was like, oh, why do you do this to me? Because like I said, that was the number one way people would follow. So kind of at every step of the turn I've been pwned. Instagram even pwns me a little bit. But Instagram, the way they pwn me is funny. Every time I do a road trip, if I go past Iowa, you know, a road trip driving across the United States, the second I step into Iowa, they freak out. They're like, somebody has your account and they're in Iowa. And I'm like, they're like, sign in here with this verification code to make sure it's really you. And so then I sign in, and then Instagram's like, somebody just got your verification code. They're being an imposter towards you. I'm like, no, it's really me. It's really me. I'm in a road trip. I'm going through Iowa. And they don't believe, I think they're like, there's no way anyone goes through Iowa. And so they always, you know, suspend my account. And it's not like, you know, they don't take it down, but they like disable it. So I'm not allowed to like, I'm not allowed to post. I'm allowed to look at other, you know, other people's posts. And so for a while there, I was like, you know, it was a little triggering because I was just like, Instagram, you know, you low key aren't that great. And so for a while, I just stopped coming to Instagram. Like I would post and that would be it. But now I'm starting to get back on Instagram. Okay, so we're done with this. Thank everyone for coming out. See everyone tomorrow for more Halos. We're doing all the Halos, all the difficulties. And that will be starting at 10 a.m. and going to 12. Next week, all week, I'm going to be taking off. And so I'll announce when I come back, but I'm taking the week off for my birthday, 1. And 2, I'm catching a little cold and I want to recover from that. And then I have another project I want to build. So I want to thank everyone for coming out. Hope to see everyone tomorrow for the last stream in a while. All the Halos, all the difficulties. Bye-bye.